agree with Alan Greenspan, we ought to just eliminate the debt ceiling. Oh, absolutely, we do.
The ability of almost every working American to access more credit than they should have been able to masked the underlying fact that lower and middle class incomes were not rising.
That's not a tenable strategy. Isn't now the time to eliminate it? Oh, it would have been time a long time ago.
Let's put aside terrorism. Let's talk only about our own homegrown animals that are patrolling America right now. So it goes down to the simplest thing. Be prepared, be vigilant.
So the madness of the election is over. I'm feeling better. I'm feeling better than I have in a while. I was sick through much of, not necessarily sick, but just feeling kind of rough around the edges. Had some congestion. Still got a little congestion, but feeling much better. Feeling much better. Now, the election is over. Right? The riots have begun, just like I told you they would, and I knew the walks and the peaceful protests would turn into things being broken. And though there's tons of protesters walking around the streets, setting fire, breaking, crashing, smashing, we're still getting the stories fed to us about the several haters who have come out of the woodwork on the white side, the white supremacists, the idiots. They're the ones getting the spotlight, of course. We knew that going into it. We knew that's exactly what would happen. Right? We knew that there would be some of these degenerates that would come out of the woodwork, and then they would write their swastikas on some buildings, and everyone would lose their mind. What doesn't seem to be getting mentioned is that Donald Trump came out and said, stop the madness. Just stop it. He said, stop it. This is not what he's about. He's not a racist guy. You know that. I know that. The media does not seem to want to wrap their head around it. But for today, I want to put that on the back burner. The work is done, you know what I mean, for both sides. This is like a bad breakup. It's like watching the nation in a bad breakup, right? And you're watching one side that's just, they're happy with the breakup. This is what had to happen. They understand. You're watching the other side of the nation that's just throwing a temper tantrum. They're getting restraining orders. They're throwing rocks. They're setting things on fire. They're stealing belongings. They're burning all your pictures. It looks like an ugly breakup. It looks like some college kids who are really upset and stamping their feet because they didn't get their way. But the truth behind the election is that a lot of Democrats didn't come out and vote. That's the truth. The stats that I heard are 6 million Democrats who voted for Barack Obama didn't come out to vote. Now, is that because mean white people are racist? You tell me. All right, there's a train of thought with this Trump presidency that mean racist white people came out and voted this guy in so they could be racist and have fun. And then when you look at the demos and you look at the facts and who voted and who didn't, you see 30% of Latinos voted for Trump. You see that 6 million Democrats registered that voted for Obama in 2012 did not come out to vote, period. And that's the difference, right? When the conservatives sat out on Mitt, we didn't say it was a racist nation and they're evil and they're not nice to us. No, when the conservatives sat home and Barack took 2012, it was what it was. But now the card has flipped. The Democrats were disgusted by Hillary and Donald, and they decided they weren't going to vote, or they were going to vote for the gorilla, or they were going to vote for Gary Johnson, or they weren't going to vote at all. And now the script is, it's not that the Democrats didn't come out and vote, it's that white America has made a right turn, and they've turned far right. They've elected the High Chancellor. If you've seen the movie V for Vendetta, the High Chancellor has been elected, and their evil ways are showing. It's scary because what I've been hearing a lot of lately on the radio is them. Them. We're not one of them. We're trying to integrate with them. We want to be like them. There's some people who've been oppressed. Just this morning I was listening to something. a talk radio show, a very popular one, by the way. And the host was talking about the election. He was talking about the minorities who voted for Donald Trump. And he was saying how, some minorities, when they are oppressed, they tend to think that if they act like them, if they become them, they become like them, then they can avoid the oppression. And I listen to that kind of talk, man, and you think that what Donald Trump says up on a stage is scary. That's scary. When you hear a national radio host with tremendous reach referring to the whole majority of the nation as them, right? As them. Clearly defining the difference between one group and the other. One nice group and one bad group. One evil, oppressive group and one I don't know. But that's the situation we're in. And I don't really want to talk about it. I got my rocks off on that bunch of statements there. I hope you understand what the facts are. Women voted, Latinos voted. I think something like 8% of blacks voted for Donald. That's the reality. That's the reality. The big number, though, is 6 million Democrats didn't vote. And that's what happens when 6 million Democrats don't vote. It makes a difference. Same thing when conservatives didn't come out and vote for Mitt Romney. It's not this big conspiracy. I'm sorry. It's just not. It's pretty easy when you look at it. But what about you? What about you is the question. That's the question on my mind. What about you? What do I mean by that? Well, Donald Trump's in. That's either good for you or bad for you. You're either terrified or enthralled or somewhere in between. All this madness, all this shock and awe, what does it do for your life? And are you wrapping yourself up? You know how many people I've seen hit the eject button on social media in the last week? I can't take it. I'm going off social. I need a break. Buckling under the stress of a Facebook post. There's no way that I can manage this. I can't take this anymore. I'm signing off for a few weeks so I can get my head together. The pressure of a Facebook post. I read it. I'm reading too many things I don't agree with. Oh, the weakness. The weakness is it's like an undertow. You know what I mean? It just takes people. It does, really. It just takes them. Just fucking takes them. They're gone. The undertow pulls them deep and they can't get back. So I'm watching a society that is falling apart, whether they believe in one or the other. They just, But what does that mean for you? The guy's not going to be in office till January. How long until anything he wants to do happens? And how much of what he wants to do is going to affect you? Are you in a position right now where you're saying, I'm in a rough position economically, financially, whatever, and this guy's going to change that. He's going to get me my job back. He's going to bring jobs back to America. It again goes back to what I was telling you about self-reliance. There are very serious and very important reasons why I voted for Donald Trump. And I was willing to wager. You understand that's what the presidential election is now. It's little more than a wager. And that was never made more clear than with Barack Obama. And you can talk to Barack Obama supporters who are rational and who voted for him in 2008. Right? It was a wager. It was an unknown guy who was going to come in and he was saying all the right things. And did he wind up doing some of them? Yes. Did he wind up doing most of them? No. That's what the presidential election is. But I'm going to wager on safety and security. I'm going to wager on lower taxes. And I'm always going to wager on term limits. Term limits is something I've been talking about for a long time. So that's where my wager went. But there are people out there I know who are dependent on this president for a job, for a better economy, for a better life. Presidents don't make better lives. Only you can make a better life for yourself. You got to mark my words on that. right? Presidents can change some things on the outskirts that might make your wallet a little thicker, a little fuller. But there's so much more to life than money. There's so much more to life than money. One thing I would say to those of you out there who are struggling, who are working part-time and want to be working full-time, who are wanting to work, period, and don't have a job, work on you. Work on yourself. Work on your life. Work on where you need to get better, where you need to get smarter, where you need to have more patience. This is where you'll see gains. This is where you'll make a difference in your life. Whoa, really? What is happening here? This is like I'm getting ready to make a right turn, and all I see is buses. I'm trapped between, there's 3 buses in a row. What kind of a route are you running here, Richmond City buses? What is this route called? Literally 3 buses. Here's one, 4th one comes across the way. Across the median, a 4th one's going in a different direction. You gotta love the efficiency of public transportation. It's a beautiful thing, right? So in a few decades, we won't even need cars because we'll have these wonderful bus systems and rails and trolleys and scooters. It's a sad situation, the public transit here, and to have 3 of them bunched up like this is a very insane thing. Neither here nor there. The issue is you. The issue is taking a look at yourself and not saying, because I'm looking at people, right? I'm looking at people in both camps, in the Trump camp and in the damn it Trump won camp. You've got to look at it 2 ways. You can't look at it as your life's over because Donald Trump won. I'm never going to go anywhere. I talked to a guy who said that to me. It was heartbreaking. This is a guy I have a lot of respect for. We were out there talking about voting and all that stuff, and Donald Trump won. And he said, I'm a black man in America. My vote doesn't matter anyway. He said, no. He said, I'm a black man in America. It doesn't matter who's president. And I said, do you really believe that? And he just gave me a look. And that was a terrible thing, man. That was a terrible thing to see an American admit that. That was a terrible thing. I want to tell you that it's not the truth. It's the truth if you let it be. If you let it be the truth, then yeah, that's the truth. Whether Donald Trump is president or not, whether Hillary made it in or not, you'd still have to pay your bills. You still got to get your life together. You still got to figure out your purpose. All this stuff has to happen. And that's just the deal. That's the reality. That is just the reality. So what am I telling you? I'm telling you it's about self-reliance. I'm telling you it's about community cohesion. It's about getting to know your neighbors. We've been talking about this for 5 years. Start some sort of communication with neighbors. I've had tons of success through email communications and community gardening. It's made a big difference in my neighborhood. Okay, from a safety and security perspective, from a straight communications perspective. These things have changed a lot. This is your life. No one can change your life but you. No one can save your life but you. Stop looking to others. Stop looking for others to come and rescue you. How sweet is Beauty and the Beast going to be coming out in March? God, I just got done watching the trailer. That is going to be a sweet movie. These live adaptations of Disney movies are unbelievable. They really are. And this one is going to be probably one of the best because of the Beast. The Beast himself. He looks great. What? I hear you out there. What's the problem? Don't give me lip about talking about a Disney movie on my podcast. I can talk about what I want. I can talk about exactly what I want. You don't have to listen to it, but this is something I just got done watching, and it's something that I am very excited about. It looks great. The graphics look phenomenal. The candelabras, the clocks, the teapots, they all look great. The story looks fantastic. What am I supposed to pretend like I'm a war hero or something? Like I'm some sort of... Don't you understand the diversity in the human being? I never wanted to be a clear-cut individual. I never wanted to be a guy who was, oh, that's him and he's this. Oh, that's him and he likes this and that's what he does. Right? Why can't a guy, this is my question, why can't a guy swing a heavy kettlebell, love Muay Thai, love combat sports, love hunting, love guns, but also read Shakespeare, but also love beautiful artwork and also love live adaptations of badass, timeless Disney stories? See, that people have trouble with a person like me, and there are a lot of people like me out there, but people have trouble with a person like me because they can't box me up, right? You can't box me up under one heading. You can't say, oh, well, you know, he's like one of those prepper, ex-military type of guys, you know what I mean? And that's sort of his thing. You can't box me up like that. He's a tough guy. No, not really. You can't sum me up in less than a paragraph. That's all. That's all. And for that one is one of the big reasons why you come here and you listen to this show. Let's be honest. Because I definitely inspire you to be the same type of person. Don't be a one-dimensional person. I like red and I vote Republican and I'm a prepper and I'm an ex-military and I this and I fall into this. And if anybody comes for my guns, all that is great stuff if that's what you're into. But for the vast majority of us, we're not that simple a person. And as a man, in 2016 in particular, you know, you get those weird feelings like, should I like this? Should I not like this? Is this something that will emasculate me further because I'm already living in a time where they have deballed most men in America? No, there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. Emotions, feelings, the expression of joy towards art. What? That's all part of being human. That's the beautiful part of freedom and liberty, is that all this art exists. All this love exists out in the world. I mean, if you're not for war, and who's for war? Raise your hand if you're for war. If you're not for war, then what are you for? You're for love and peace. And therefore, movies, texts, films, articles, artwork that reflect love and peace should resonate with you. Don't be so insecure. You know what I mean? You can be very comfortable and very secure with the fact that I like this. I like this because I like it. No other reason. You know, if you're not harming anyone, if you're not breaking any laws, you can like whatever you want. Stop trying to be boxed up in a certain type of heading / subheading. That tangent said, I can't wait to see Beauty and the Beast. My kids are going to love it. I'll take my wife. She'll probably enjoy it less than me, but she'll go watch it. Hey, it may be the first movie that my little son gets to go to. It looks great. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Take it with a grain of salt. Just understand, it looks great. It's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be timely for me because we're planning a trip to Disney in the future, and it's going to be very timely. So, can a man come on to a podcast where he often talks about the collapse of society, martial arts, weapons to protect his or her family, and you know, I can go down the path of aggression as good as anyone else. Can he come on a podcast with an audience as diverse as mine and say that he's excited about Beauty and the Beast? I don't know. I just did it. So I guess you can. What ripples it has across the world, I don't know. It could be a bit of sentiment. You know, I went to International Night last night at my son's school, and it was a beautiful event. It really was. I've been very blessed with the education that I've happened into with my son. Let me put it that way. Now, it could be a mix of the sentiment. You know, the sentiment that comes along with being a father with kids at this age. But it also very much could come along with the conversation I had with my son on the way into school today. And it was one of those conversations that took me by surprise. Because the power of it. You know, in my head, it had been a conversation that I thought I would have with my son. Things have been accelerated, as I mentioned earlier. You know, these dreams of mine are coming true fast. And now they have to come true, which is kind of an added, you know, it's added pressure, but it's also kind of, I like it. I really do like it. And that I knew that the conversation would come with my son where he knows and he loves the fact that I work for the food bank. He loves the fact that I work in a warehouse and that I drive forklifts and do all these things, right? He loves that. He's got a little box at his school from the food bank, and it's got the same logo that's on all my work shirts and jackets and everything like that. And he likes that. This is my daddy's job. My daddy's work right here. You know what I mean? And but I knew the time was quickly approaching where I was going to have to explain to him the other avenues, because I work for someone, mommy works for someone. And he had to get the conversation today about what it means to own your own business. And he was sitting here in the car with me, and I said, Carter, you know, Daddy started his own business. What'd that mean? I said, Daddy started his own business. He's going to be switching jobs soon. And, yeah, it's going to mean some changes for you. It's going to mean some changes for us. I'm not going to be working at the food bank anymore. And he wasn't heartbroken about it or anything. It didn't hurt his feelings. And then I started to say, you know, saying out loud, Daddy has started his own business and he's quitting his job and he's going to work as a writer and he's going to have more time with the kids and be home more. It's been in my head for a long time now, right? When did I decide to do this part-time thing to spend more time with the kids? I don't, 3 months, 4 months, maybe 5 months ago. This started rattling in my head. Just 2-3 months ago, it became very much a reality that it was going to happen in the new year. So in other words, I've been doing freelance writing jobs. I've been, you know, always for a long time, making money doing that. So that's always been in my brain. But I have not sat someone down and gone over exactly what that means until this morning. And I have never spoken so matter-of-factly about it. About the fact that the LLC is formed. About the fact that I am now a business owner. Which has been a dream of mine and something I've been doing on the side alleys of my life for many years. And saying it out loud to my 5-year-old son gripped me in such emotion I couldn't even believe it. I couldn't even believe it. My eyes welled up when I said it out loud. It was like almost like a spell, really. That's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of a powerful spell that was released this morning. That inside of my head, it had very little power. But to say out loud, Daddy is starting his own business. He's going to be working as a writer. He's going to be home. He's going to pick you up from school. All these things. Put these words out into the universe in a way that parts of them have been set out there for some time, but it really was like a declaration of independence for me. It really was like some sort of magic spell that gripped me with such emotion it was hard to explain. And to look at my son and have him, grip about 40% of what I was saying. So I followed it up with, I'm going to pick you up from school and we'll do your homework, and then you're going to come home and you can play all day if you want. That resonated with him, of course. Now, what does all that mean? All that means that, God, there's such power in words, I guess, for one thing. There's such power in the utterance of words into reality. And having been digging for oil since I was probably 20 years old. Since I was 20 years old, I've been digging for oil, metaphorically speaking. I've been looking for an avenue. I've been looking for the way that I could generate my own success. And here's the reason why. Because in the world, there are people who work very hard and devote themselves to things, right? There are people who, I'll never forget the way Joe Rogan put it. Joe Rogan, whether you like him or not, whatever is relevant to me, he put it about as succinctly and as simply as possible. He said, some people are just more, right? There are some people who are just more. And when it comes to work, that's my wife and I. My wife and I always, throughout our work career, have been in the upper echelon in our workplace. Always. Forever. As long as I've known her, as long as I've worked, it's always been a situation like that. And I observed that pretty early on. And I said, the work ethic is there. The work ethic is there. The creativity is there. The responsibility is there. We don't miss work. We don't oversleep alarm clocks. It never happens. So the idea that I had to translate that into a business and become the owner of my own destiny has always been in my mind. It's always been in my mind. Now, what's always been a problem is working a full-time job and attempting to do that on the side streets and side alleys. And with a thing like catering, or with a thing like you're writing novels exclusively, you need time to generate income. You can't drop, unless you have money, which we never did. We're working kids, worked through college, all that. We've lived the best life because we've made our way through it on our own, with our own blood and sweat, which is, to me, the best way you can live. So I've always had these side street businesses, these side street dealings that I can never catapult myself from one income to another. And I didn't have the funds to do it another way. But freelance writing has changed all that. Freelance writing has changed all that. Again, it's taking work. Right now, I'm in the eye of the hurricane. You have to understand. Well, not really. The eye's kind of past. Right now, I'm hitting that ugly opposite side wall that's worse than the first wall of the storm. Because I'm in that 2 weeks span where I have to ratchet up the work that I'm doing, but I'm still working a full-time job. So it's going to be a lot of red-eye days for me to bridge that small gap between incomes. But why this is going to be a success again is because I'm not going to be beholden to two jobs at once. I'm not going to be beholden to being a 40 hours a week worker for a company and a 20 hours a week worker for my own aspirations. And to be honest with you guys, sometimes that's all it is. Sometimes that is all that separates a person from from being a successful business owner is time. Right? If you could save the money to take 3 months off to nurture a business, and you had the drive and the work ethic to do that, well, that's most likely going to work out, depending on the type of risk in the business and all those things. But this is a situation that I've never been in before, and it's so cool to have a podcast to share that with people, because I'm sharing it with freedom-loving, self-reliant people who can appreciate and who are probably striving for very similar goals. Right? I've got a homestead I want to blog about. I want to monetize that blog and make money. And one of the new themes on the I Am Liberty show, which is something that I have fallen into, really. It's not something that I discovered or anything along those lines, but when I look at the American economy, and maybe Donald Trump does some magic with it, but when I look at a world economy and the American economy, changing economies, it becomes very clear to me that self-reliance is no longer just about your chickens and kale in the garden, right? And about food storage and those types of things that we have all come to recognize. But to take it a step further, it is about the cohesion of your community, which I've talked about for 5 years. It is also about, and this is the newest piece of the puzzle, you know, before we used to rely on silver. We used to say, silver and gold in case things go awry. And that's cool. I'm in love with silver. Period. End of story. I'm absolutely in love with silver coins, silver bar. I love it. It is more of a passion now than it is a necessity. In the early days when I started to get into prepping and survival, it became, okay, I got to get some of this because if the economy crashes right now, I need to have an alternate term or alternate means of procuring the things that I need. But now, I look at the world a little differently. I say, this push to hard assets is good, but it's more about diversification. It's not as much about put all your money on black. And I tend to think that the traditional salary for a single company is a little volatile, depending on that company. If you're in a great company that's going nowhere, you're selling insurance, you're doing something that everybody needs by law, you're in pretty good shoes. But if you're in a volatile company making a lot of money, or in a company where you're doing sales, and markets can shift, I would say look into the diversification of your funds and your income. These are important things to understand. It's about minimizing risk. That's all we do here. That's all we do on the I Am Liberty show, is look for ways to minimize, in this preparedness and self-reliance community, we're looking to minimize risk and to assure that we have a plan in place if things go awry. So I hope you enjoyed this story, because it was an amazing moment in my life, which is why I thought it important to record sort of the review.
There's a moon out tonight. Let's go strolling. There's a girl in my heart.
Oh, the Thanksgiving table is calling my name. I will tell you that. It's calling my name. It's one of the best holidays there is. Why? Well, because it's a meal. There's no pretense. There's no gifts. There's none of that sort of insecurity that comes along with a holiday like Christmas or Easter. It really truly is a meal. It is sit down, have a meal with people that you love and enjoy being around. And the best part this year for me is after that I get to leave. And in most years I don't get to leave. Most years I'm usually either at my house, I host it, I cook the whole thing, or I go up to Pennsylvania to see my family. And I think this year I'll keep it local. We have a new young lady in the family. I guess she's not necessarily new, but great person, really. A great addition to this family. And she wants to take a swing at it. And for a guy like me, who has been so heavily involved in Thanksgiving dinners for, maybe 10 years now, with 2 kids, with this transition in my life right now, the timing could not be better. The timing could not be better. First off, I started thinking, what could I make? What should I bring? I'll make a dessert. You know what? I may just bring a bottle of red wine. Honestly. I may bring a bottle of red wine, and that might be my contribution. I put a bow on it and crack that thing open as soon as we show up. And enjoy the things that I'm thankful for. Unfortunately, when you live across state lines, you don't get to see everyone all the time. It's hard, and this is a tough decision for me, not going up north to see my family. But it's what it is. Sometimes you make tough decisions. Sometimes you make decisions for the benefit of those ones who are intimately involved in you. Dragging babies up and down highways. These next 2 weeks are going to be so punishing because I have to live between situations, between jobs, really. I have to live in a world where I still am beholden to a 40-hour work week, but at the same time, I really need to, which I really have strike up tons more work through the freelance writing world, and I've been lucky enough to fall into some great clients. One of the clients I just started writing for, edgehunting.com, there's so much potential there. It's unbelievable because they manage several different blogs. So what I'm getting at is, it's the holiday. This is the holiday season, guys. This is it. This is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. The leaves are changing. If you're in the Northeast, it's beauty. It's beauty. I did a whole live show last night about Thanksgiving and about the history, and about how the men were sent off on a fowling, right? They were sent off on a hunt they called a fowling to find geese and swan and turkey. Whether it's become a holiday of sheer white shame or not, right? Whether it's become a white guilt holiday like Columbus Day, like Martin Luther King Jr. Day, is irrelevant to me. It really is irrelevant to me. What those pockets of mad, sick people want to talk about and want to blame white people for, that's on them. You know what I mean? I know the contributions that have been made to this world. And I know, I don't have to go through and explain my race. I don't have to go through and explain my race. That's not what this show's about. That show's for another day when some idiot comes out of the woodwork and says something insane. Now, what is it that you enjoy most about Thanksgiving? That's the question that I ask myself. What is it that you enjoy most? Is it the people? Is it the idea that we get to stop the work? We get to stop the everything, right? All of the obligations are stopped. And then, beyond that, we're forced to sit down together as a family and eat. And it's a sad thing in a time like this, but you can count on fingers and toes probably how many more times, if you're a 30-year-old like myself with kids, and you have grandparents, and you have, you know what I mean? I don't have any grandparents left. But if you have your children's grandparents, right, your in-laws, you can count on fingers and toes how many more great meals you'll all have together. And that's just the reality of this short-lived dance in the sun we call life. That's just what it is. There's only a handful of times. I'll never forget how it hit me, how the fragility of life hit me. It hit me maybe 5 years ago. I'd say it was probably about 5 years ago. It was after opening day trout season, which is a tradition in my family. My father and I haven't missed an opening day in I don't know how many years. I think, did we go this year? I can't remember if we went this year or not. Yeah, we went this year. With the baby and stuff, it's been tough, but I think I've made it up every year for many, many moons. And we finishing up that day, that day's an amazing thing. It really is. It's so great. You get out there in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. We fish the Chester Creek. And, they're stocked trout. But we get out there and we have a ball. We eat breakfast. We catch trout. We bring them home. We fillet them up, eat them. Cornmeal, dust them, fry them, whatever. One year I dressed them, cut the head off, cut the tail off, cut the innards out. I stuffed them with cornbread stuffing with leeks and mushrooms and truffle butter. It was unbelievable. But that's what we do. That's what we do. That's what we've always done. And I remember driving home. I have a 4-hour ride from Philadelphia. And driving home, probably with a couple kids or a kid and a dog in the back. And I'm driving and I'm thinking to myself, how many more trips down the creek and back do I have left with my dad? How many more trips down the creek and back am I gonna have left with my father? Because it's an annual thing. It's an annual thing, but when you start to think about what that means, when you can begin to quantify the number of times that you're gonna have this series of events happen with a person before they're gone. The holidays are a time for healing. There's no doubt about it. Which is why suicides uptick in the holidays too. The overwhelming lonesome and sadness that kicks in during the holidays is tremendous. It cripples people. It kills them. It literally takes them out. It drives them to the point where they decide that rather than be lonely, they'd be dead. What I say to you guys out there, and I know the complexity of families doing battle. Trust me, I do. But again, when you look at the situation that you're in, and you look at how many walks up and down the creek you have left in this life with that certain person, and you know which person I'm talking about. It all depends on who you are, but every one of us has that person or those people in our life. That person or those people in our life to whom we are counting, who are counting the last walks up and down the creek. There's only so many left. And will you waste precious time fighting and arguing? Will you waste precious time over ego? Right? Will you waste precious time over pride? In that you'd rather be proud and be tough and be strong and be a rock, right? Instead of be like water, you want to be like a rock. The tough thing about being good and the tough thing about doing the right thing is that it's not about ego and it's not about pride. And sometimes you have to make hard decisions. Sometimes you have to, it's a very complicated thing. But what I would warn is not to let your pride and your ego keep you lonely this year. If you have that parent, if you have that child, if you have that uncle that you haven't spoke to in a long time because of a falling out some years back. You disagree. You voted for Trump, so he gave... No, but honestly, we have these little falling outs in family, and sometimes they heal themselves like wounds. Sometimes they're gaping wounds that don't heal themselves, and both parties are so full of pride that they're waiting for the other one to apologize. And I would say this year, 2016, we're so afraid of rejection. But this is the year that you pick the phone up and you bring the family together and you do that, if it makes sense. I know everyone's situation was unique, some more dire than others, but I think that's what it is. Now is the time. The holiday season is the time to mend old wounds, right? You call your mother up, you call your brother up, whatever it is, and you tell them, look, I want to come to Thanksgiving this year. I want to come see the kids. I want to come see you. I want to come see, whoever. And you tell them, look, let's let bygones be bygones, right? We haven't seen each other in years. We haven't talked. I miss you. That's what all it comes down to. We fought over blah, de blah, and I miss you. And we spent many more years smiling and laughing together and having a good time than we have being angry with one another. So why be angry with one another? Maybe you were wrong, maybe I was wrong. I don't even really care anymore. I'd love to come see your kids. I'd love to come see you and Dad. I'd love to come see you, and your wife or whatever. It's just my sentiment, right? It's my sentiment to you leading into this holiday season, because you have to understand the very real mortality that exists within us all. That you only have a finite amount of walks up and down this creek. There are only so many walks downstream than back upstream. And when you start getting to a certain age, those people who have been around you your whole life, those people who've been supporting you, those people who maybe you've been supporting, those people who have become an integral piece of what you are, your time is limited with them. And that's the reality. That's the reality. And once they're gone, there's no turning back, right? Once they're gone, there's no more trips up and down the creek. Once they disappear into the ether, it is what it is at that point. So I encourage you, I honestly and truly encourage you to take the time to mend old wounds if possible and enjoy yourself this holiday season, okay? That's what we prepare for. That's what we voted for. That's all of these things, right? I'll see you next time. It might be a while before I get back on the mic, but I'll see you sooner rather than later. It's James Walton with I Am Liberty.